Hello there, this is Anna Amelia from Northeast Animal Rights, doing another one of our Saturday Spotlight interviews. I'm delighted to welcome along Toni Vernelli, who is the International Head of Policy and Communications of Veganuary. So welcome, Toni, and thank you very much for agreeing to do this for us.
Oh, thank you very much for inviting me.
You're very welcome. So we're going to go straight into the questions. Now, the questions which I ask everyone is, could you tell us about your vegan journey, please?
Yeah, certainly. I went vegan at 19, so that's quite a long time ago now, about 32 years. And I went vegan because I joined a local animal rights group. But my journey started long before that. When I was a child, well, growing up, my father was a butcher, and I never really questioned it. It was quite normal. We'd be in the back of the butcher shop and we'd see the carcasses there, and it didn't bother me as a child. It didn't upset me in any way until I was about 7 or 8, and we went to a farm, a working farm, for a weekend with friends of the family. And I absolutely fell in love with the animals. I just would spend all my time in with the lambs and the sheep and the pigs and the cows. And then when we got home, obviously I realized that those were the same animals, because they looked exactly the same, only they were alive and not dead. And I was horrified. And I remember very clearly saying to my mom, I don't want to eat animals, Mommy. I love animals. I don't want to eat them. And she was like, oh, well, we have to eat them or we'll die. And obviously, when you're 7 or 8, you don't know any better. And so you listen to your parents and you carry on. But then when I was in secondary school, I did a course on health and nutrition. And in part of that course, we had long meal plan for a vegetarian that would provide, all of their nutrients. So we had all the stats on what were in foods, and we had recipes and stuff to look at. And I remember saying to the teacher, oh, so you can live without eating meat. And she was, an old hippie. And she was like, yeah, I haven't eaten meat since the 60s. It's like, oh, well, that's it then. Why would I carry on doing that? So I was around 15, 16 at that point when I stopped eating meat. And then when I was 19, I moved across Canada from the small town I grew up in to Vancouver and joined a local animal rights group and learned about dairy. And then it was like, oh, how did I not know this? How did I not know a cow had to be pregnant to produce milk? Like, it's breast milk. I'm 19 years old. I'm an intelligent woman. How have I not put two and two together? And at that point, it was just like, well, that's it. I'm done.
Yeah. But it's interesting what you said there. I mean, obviously being brought up, we have spoken to people who've been brought up amongst, on a farm or something, and there's so many people who we talk to who just don't understand that cows have to be pregnant to produce milk. They just think that they automatically produce it, and that we are almost doing them a favor by relieving them of the pressure of their breast milk inside of them.
Exactly.
They just don't get it. And these, like you said, these are quite intelligent people. And I kind of I was vegetarian for most of my life, from 14 until about 17, 18 years ago. And I was kind of, I was oblivious to the the pain and stuff, and I was still party to being vegetarian. So it's interesting that you're saying that you kind of you made the connection with the animals as a young child, and then it wasn't until considerably later that you made the connection with the dairy animals as well.
Yeah, exactly. And to be fair, Veganuary, that's the comment we get the most. Like, we always ask people, what they learned when they've signed up and gotten the emails every day. And by far and away, the thing that people say they learned most, like the thing that really stuck with them, is that a cow has to be pregnant to produce milk. So people really don't know.
Yeah. So how did you find yourself working for Veganuary?
I've worked for different advocacy groups my whole adult life. It started in my early 20s when I worked for PETA. That's where I ended up in the UK, was working for PETA, and I was with them for 7 years. And then I decided to go to university, and I did an undergraduate degree in wildlife conservation. But alongside that, I worked at Viva, and then I did some work for Animal Aid. And then I went and worked at Viva full time as their campaigns manager. Then I went back to university and did a master's and a PhD in animal behavior, and then went back into campaigning because, when it's in your blood, you can't help yourself. So then I worked at the League Against Cruel Sports for a few years. And then I went to Animal Equality, and I was their UK director for about 4 years. And then a good friend of mine who was the German director previously of animal equality became the CEO of Veganuary, and we just got talking, and they'd had this role advertised as comms and marketing, and I was like, it's not really me, because the stuff with website and SEO and the Facebook ads and the social media, like, I'm not an expert in that, but I know how to do press, and I'm good at the strategy and that kind of stuff. And she was kind of like, that's brilliant, that's really what we need. We've got a social team in. So I was like, yeah, great, sounds great. And it's been really nice actually to be on the more positive side of campaigning. Like you don't realize until you're out of the more confrontational and upsetting side of campaigning, the toll that it's taking on you. I did so many undercover investigations and then watched endless hours of footage from farms and slaughterhouses. And it's not till you're not looking at that stuff on a regular basis that you realize, actually, this has really affected me.
Yeah. I mean, I was quite sort of, when you were talking about all of your previous roles, I was going to say that all of these previous roles have quite, they're very difficult and quite a hard, distressing element to it. And in Veganuary, like you said, is more positive. And it does take its toll on you. I know some of the stuff that we do as well. It does take its toll on you. It's just always there, isn't it? So Veganuary must come as like a good relief for you. But I know it's still very, very hard work. So, people think that Veganuary just happens in January. But we know it goes on year round. So kind of what's your planning process for, I mean, obviously you're going to hit January the 1st, and loads of stuff are going to go out, including our lovely advert, which we've got, thanks to you and the local advertiser as well, which we really kind of like mark our year with this advert going up at the start of the year. So how does your year look like for Veganuary, which just isn't in January?
Yeah, so I guess January is, just mayhem. There's stuff happening everywhere. And, obviously we have our plans of the media agenda that we want to get out there in our stories, but then we've got so much incoming that like the press come to us for stories. We've got companies launching products, so there's stories generated around that. We get asked to do talks. So it's really exciting and really busy. And then come February, we start our campaign reflection, our campaign analysis, what worked, what didn't work, what should we stop doing, what should we improve, what should we carry on, that kind of stuff. So we do all of that in February while it's fresh in our minds, and put together our end of campaign report for our donors and our followers on social media. And then come March, we all tend to start taking a bit of our annual leave because we're really exhausted from the campaign period. And, once you get to like May, June, it's time to start planning the next campaign again. So for us, that's kind of the best time to start taking, big chunks of leave. And then we start having planning meetings, come April, we start thinking about, okay, what are our objectives for next year, And we start out with like senior management team, having these meetings and sort of planning the overarching strategy and what our key objectives are in April. And then come May, we go into individual country meetings, because we're in 8 countries now, official chapters. And the countries, take those overarching objectives and sort of break them down for, what their country is going to achieve under that. And then come June, we're starting to put together what the actual campaign plan is going to look like. What's our theme going to be this year? What's the look going to be this year? Who are new ambassadors we might want to approach for this year? Are we going to produce new resources? Do any of our resources need updating for this year? Are we going to launch an app or a podcast or a YouTube series, or go on to a new social media platform that's come out that we're not on yet? We start making those plans in June. And then after that, it's really just rolling it out, contacting celebrities, if we're putting new resources together, starting to write them, etc.
So it seems like it's 100 miles an hour apart from maybe a couple of weeks in March.
Exactly. It's so true. And every year we get to like September and go, how is it September already? Oh my God.
Now, we know that obviously Veganuary, like earlier days, people were, the biggest thing about Veganuary was people didn't know how to pronounce it. But now we know obviously Veganuary, the main theme around it is about the food part of it. because food obviously is quite a big part of everyone's lives. And if anybody's going to make a major change, that is something which they're going to be looking to first, rather than all of the other things. But so why do you think, why do you think Veganuary focus on the food part of it? So early on in the year as well, when people are doing resolutions and kind of like making all these plans for the year, why do you think it's so important?
I guess there's two reasons really. So at that time of the year, as you say, people are making New Year's resolutions because they feel sluggish and overweight after Christmas. So, the food is what they're focused on, right? Is trying to improve their health and feel a bit better. So they're focused on the food. But also, it's really the linchpin. It's great that there are loads of vegan cosmetics out there now, but it is not those byproduct ingredients that are keeping these industries in business. If people carried on eating meat at the level they are now, but all cosmetics went vegan, the same number of animals would be killed. It would have no impact on animals, or on the environment, because none of the animals who are being killed for cosmetics. They're being killed for meat and dairy and eggs. And it's the leftovers, basically, that end up in the cosmetics. And it's the leftovers that end up being used for fuel, for when we talk about, green energy and they burn manure, well, you could eliminate all manure burning facilities for electricity. But if people are still eating meat at the rate they are now, you won't save a single animal. So that's where the impact is. Right. I mean, it's the same with wool. It's a byproduct of meat production. There's hardly any money in wool these days. Like farmers almost make no money off of that at all. But since they're already raising the animals for meat, they might as well shear them and sell that wool on. But a lot of it doesn't get used because the profit margins are so small. So really the only byproduct that has a profitability for the meat industry is leather. All the rest, you could wipe the sale of it out tomorrow and it would have absolutely no impact on animal suffering or the numbers of animals being killed.
Yeah. Now we know that obviously this, we've had Stoptober, we've had November, and and obviously Veganuary now. So Veganuary is now part of our national events. I mean, so many people know about it. What changes have you seen since Veganuary started? Because it's the 10th year now, is it?
This is the 10th year,
yeah.
It's crazy how big it is. Like when we're just collecting the media stories, it's like every local paper across the country runs stories like top 5 places to eat during Veganuary, top 5 hotels to stay in if you're doing Veganuary, top 5 tips, just endlessly we get stuff like that. We get the tourist boards now. Local tourist boards are putting out things like doing Veganuary. Leicestershire is a great place to visit because we've got these restaurants you can eat at. I mean, it's just crazy the stuff you see coming up. You're like, wow, this has taken on its own life. And we know that most people who do it don't register with us. I mean, not only do they not register with us, sign up on our website, they don't know we exist. They don't know Veganuary is actually an organization. They think it's just something people do, which is brilliant. That's exactly what we want. And then we see it coming in from all around the world, like countries where we don't have an office and we don't work with a particular organization, but we see the press clippings coming in, in Thai. And the only word you can recognize in the article is Veganuary, or in Cantonese. And the only word that you can see in there is Veganuary. So it has just become this global phenomenon that really we could disappear tomorrow and it would probably continue to grow. It might lose its focus, and see the people who sign up with us are much more successful at it because they're getting all of our resources, and we engage a lot with businesses to make sure there's products available easily on the high street for them. But Veganuary as a thing would carry on.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose that's interesting to hear that, because the ones that I give you as a comparison, like Stoptober and November, they're much more UK based. They're not national, not international. Whereas obviously Veganuary is, you said they've got 8 chapters all over the world now, but also the kind of like the formal ones as well, and the fact that it's the word has entered the dictionary, if you like.
Yes.
So that the numbers. So you're saying that you've got a lot of people who would do it without even realizing that Veganuary is an official thing.
Oh,
so, So in terms of numbers, you get like people signing up. How many people are you expecting to sign up in January?
So we don't even have estimations anymore. We've completely stopped that
Right. Okay.
because we just realize it's pointless because the number
Right.
of people who are doing it
Yeah.
is just vastly, vastly,
Yeah.
vastly surpasses the number of
Yeah.
people who actually sign up with us.
Yeah.
And the number who sign up with us actually, it's almost goes down once it becomes a cultural phenomenon, you know, like
Yeah.
certainly in the UK, because
Yeah.
everyone just does it now.
Yeah.
No one even thinks that they
Yeah.
should register or would need to
Yeah.
register. So it gives a real false impression of
Mm.
how big the movement actually is, and
Yeah.
particularly in the biggest countries, right?
Yeah.
Because fewer people actually sign up in the
Yeah.
bigger countries now because it's just part of the,
Yeah.
you know, the fabric of British society now. People just do
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. I mean, we've seen quite recently, articles in the press about the vegan bubble has burst, veganism is over, and all sorts of stuff. And when you kind of like dig into these articles, it's always about the food part of it. It's not about the whole ethical lifestyle. It's not about we mentioned cruelty-free cosmetics, not wearing skins, um, you know, all other forms of animal use. So how important do you think it is for people who, the try vegan, the try veganuary, for them when they stay vegan to actually look at the wider lifestyle?
I mean, we certainly, people at the end of their pledge, so during the pledge, we don't talk to them about anything else because
Yeah,
for most people, the idea of giving up meat, fish, dairy, and eggs is huge. Like
yeah,
that's
yeah,
such a massive
yeah,
transformation of their life that
yeah,
if you then start talking to them about vegan alcohol and cosmetic testing on animals and stuff, they'll just be like, this is too much. I can't
yeah,
do this. So we stick to food and we just stick to those four things. We don't talk about honey. We don't talk about e-numbers. It's meat, fish, dairy, and eggs. Give
yeah,
those things up. You will have done an amazing job
yeah,
to help animals and the planet. And then once they've finished their pledge, then we start talking to them about the other issues. So they get an
yeah,
email like, want to carry on,
yeah,
making these changes, and we'll list organizations that focus on animals in entertainment,
yeah,
animal testing,
mhm,
other various animal issues, and point them hunting and sort of signpost them
yeah,
to those organizations to find out
yeah,
more. And
yeah,
then we're done with them,
yeah,
basically, because
mm,
we just focus on Veganuary isn't an organization for vegans. And I think a lot of people find this hard to get their head
yeah,
around. Vegans are doing it.
yeah,
They
yeah,
don't
yeah,
need us, right? So our focus is entirely on non-vegans.
mhm,
So once we've told them, oh, you want to carry on, brilliant. There's so
mhm,
many other ways that you
mm,
can make a difference.
mm,
Here you go. Get in touch with
yeah,
these organizations who
mhm,
focus on these. Bye. Please stay
mm,
on our email list because we'll still
yes,
keep sending you interesting info, but we are now looking to the next cohort who are
yeah,
still eating animals and
yeah.
getting them on board and moving them down that chain. So we're very much that first step, and then we pass them on.
So presumably you have people contacting you as a success story as well, that to tell you that it's changed their life or they didn't understand,
Yeah.
and then I mean that they must be quite satisfying when you get those.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, some of them are remarkable, people who have cured like lifelong skin conditions they've had by going vegan. We have one woman who, in her own words, was like a total couch potato.
Mm,
She did Veganuary, started doing the Couch to 5K running
mm,
app. She's now
mm.
running marathons and doing
Wow.
triathlons. Completely transformed her life.
Mm,
People who have transformed their businesses. So,
mhm,
quite a well-known one is there's a pub in Wales
mm.
that they did Veganuary
Oh
one
yeah,
year and
yeah,
they stayed
yeah,
vegan, yeah.
yeah,
And
yeah. I
then the
know that.
next
Yeah.
year they did a
Mhm,
Veganuary. They went vegan for January and
mhm,
the restaurant was booked out every day. So
mhm.
now they've stayed vegan.
Yeah. Mhm,
We've got lots of those. Yeah,
yeah.
athletes. We've got several athletes whose
Mhm,
performance has completely transformed after
yeah.
doing Veganuary. So they've stayed
Yeah.
vegan.
Yeah.
Yeah, we get some really lovely, lovely
Mhm.
positive stories.
So in terms of if someone who's watching this as a non-vegan, obviously this is going to go out and this will be right at the start of Veganuary. So if they want to sign up, what kind of support will you give them?
When they sign up, they'll immediately get our free e-cookbook that's
Mm,
got, recipes, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, so they can start getting some ideas. They get our vegan starter kit, which has got more detailed nutritional information in there.
mm,
They can choose what date they want to start. So if they are signing up, on the 25th of December, but they don't want to start until January, they can do that. And then the day that their pledge actually starts, they'll get their first daily email. And they'll get, throughout the course of the month, they get an email every day. They get 10 different meal plans throughout that time. You know, you get things like soya-free, gluten-free, easy, quick meals, you know, high-calorie meals for athletes, that sort of thing. And then every day there's new recipes in the emails. There's nutritional info, that's a big one. But then also info on, like, do you actually know why animal agriculture has such a big impact on the planet? And it explains it in more detail. Did you know cows have to be pregnant to produce milk? And so it's educating them on the issues, giving them the right nutritional info to make sure they're doing it in a healthy way, which is so crucial. And then, yeah, lots of moral support and encouragement as well. They get invited to join a closed Facebook group, and we monitor that very strictly. It is 100% non-judgmental, so people can post anything they want in there, and we make sure that they are treated with respect and people actually try to help them rather than just jump all over them if they're saying, you know, I still eat eggs from my own backyard hens and that sort of thing. Because we know that that judgmental aspect is really what puts people off trying vegan.
Yeah. So I feel as if I've had a really fascinating glimpse from like behind the scenes at Veganuary. It just sounds absolutely amazing, and you're doing some really really amazing stuff. So what's next for you as a person, and sort of as as somebody working for Veganuary?
Well, I recently, in the last couple of years, got involved in powerlifting. So I've
Mm,
always been very active and done
mm,
a lot of fitness, but I started doing, you know, weight training and strength training and then competing in powerlifting. So in this
mm,
coming year, I'm going to be doing 2 national competitions in
mm.
powerlifting. So I'm quite excited about that. And I think
Yeah.
it's always good to represent the vegans at these
It
sorts of
is.
things.
It
It's
is.
quite exciting. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then for Veganuary, our plan really is just to keep expanding, you know,
Yeah.
what we've done in the UK, just replicate that in
Mm,
as many different places in the world as possible. So
yeah.
I don't know if we'll necessarily open more offices next year, but we certainly will be looking to partner with more organizations in more
Mm,
countries
mm,
and spread it out that way. So we've got
mm,
8 offices now, but then we also work with 8 partner organizations in other countries so that we officially
yeah.
have Veganuary campaigns going in 16 countries. So
Yeah.
we'll definitely be looking to expand those
Yeah.
partners next year.
Yeah, it sounds as if, like, for those non-vegans, kind of like when we as vegans say we are surrounded by like non-vegan choices on advertising and everything. It sounds as if that it's going to be the other way around, that they're going to be surrounded by veganuary stuff, which is always good, isn't it? A little bit of
Yeah,
subliminal
definitely.
messaging.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
yeah,
Yeah.
so we've come to the end of our time together. So thank you very much for talking to us, and I'll let you get back to what I know is going to be a very very busy day. And wishing you, all of you in the team, in the UK, and also the chapters across the world as well. The best of luck for January and beyond. And we hope we get some rest in March.
Yes.
And thank you very much for giving up your time today. So I'm going to sign off now.
Oh,
So
thanks for having me.
you're very, very welcome. So this is Anna Amelia from Northeast Animal Rights, saying thank you and goodbye and good luck to Toni Vernelli at Veganuary and all of those who work with her as well. So thanks very much and goodbye for now.
Thank you. Bye-bye.